This is Damon Fordham, adjunct professor of history at the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina, and I'm here to tell you a couple of Anancy stories. You see, in West Africa, the griot storytellers continue to use storytelling as a means of instruction among both young people as well as adults. And one of the stories they used to do with this were the stories about a spider by the name of Anancy. And these are pretty popular, especially among the Akan people of Ghana, West Africa. And a lot of them transported these stories to Jamaica during the days of slavery, where they're still often told today in very recent times by the recently departed Miss Louise Bennett, who was a popular storyteller in Jamaica. But anyway, here are a couple of good Anancy stories. One is about Anancy and the jar of wisdom, which goes as follows. Said that one time Anancy had found this jar that was filled with wisdom. And he said, hey, I'm going to keep this wisdom all to myself. And so he took his spider tentacles and he climbed up this tree with some of the tentacles climbing onto the branches, and he's holding the jar with the other tentacles. But the tree got kind of slippery and he went, what, whoa, and then the jar of wisdom went crash down on the ground. And then all the other animals in the forest, they gathered around the broken jar with the spilled wisdom and began to grab the wisdom for themselves and run around and take the wisdom away. And then Anancy went, oh, woe is me. So this wise older spider came over to him and said, boy, what's wrong with you? And Anancy said, well, you know, I had this jar of wisdom that was all to myself. And I was going to keep it and take it up to the tree where my spider web was, but then the tentacles got slippery and the jar dropped, and now the jar's dropped and the jar is broken, and all the other animals have wisdom when I was going to have it all to myself. So the old spider looked at him and said, boy, don't you know a good thing when you see it? He's like, what are you talking about? And the old spider says, let me tell you something. It is always better for many to have wisdom than just one. Let that sink in for a moment. It's better for many to have wisdom instead of just one, because if one person has wisdom and the one person dies, the wisdom goes with them. But when many other people have wisdom, they will keep passing it along and it'll stay there for as long as possible. And we sure need that today. And another Anancy story deals with Anancy and this greedy alligator who was about to eat him. And so one day Anancy's going through the forest, and then there's this greedy alligator and says, hey, I'm going to have me some spider stew today. So the alligator then grabbed Anancy and took him with his tentacles and was about to go over and take his little paws and put the spider in his mouth and enjoy it. But so Anancy thought quickly. He said, hold up, wait, brother alligator, you're forgetting something. Alligator said, yeah, what's that? He said, look here, you're going to eat me, right? And he said, that's right. Well, what kind of alligator are you? You mean to tell me that you're going to eat me without saying your grace and blessings before you eat? That's very bad manners. He's like, yeah, you know, you're right. Let me go ahead and get my little paws together and pray and say grace before I eat. So the gator fixed his paws so he could bow his head and pray. And when the gator fixed his paws to pray, he let go of Anancy, and Anancy ran off free. The moral of that story, that's why it's good to pray. This is Damon Fordham. And if you want some really good African stories, there's some great books on the subject, such as the great historian Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the founder of Black History Month. He wrote African Myths and Folk Tales, very good one. When I was in Gambia, West Africa, I got this really good book full of them called Sona Mariana, Folk Tales from the Gambia. It's kind of hard to find, but it's a good read. Let's see, there's also West African Folk Tales by Jake Jackson and African Folk Tales by Roger D. Abrams. Really good books that are filled with wisdom that goes down with a little bit of entertainment. This is Damon Fordham.